Call to order the regular meeting of the February 9th, 2022 Fitchburg Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission has 7 members. Members are citizens residing in Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
Recording in progress.
The commission is appointed by the City Council and serves on a volunteer basis. The commission collaborates with the residents, businesses, and organizations to facilitate compliance with the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Fitchburg Wetlands Bylaw. Meetings of this commission are subject to and abide by the open meeting law. If you would like more information about any of these regulations, feel free to ask a commissioner, agent, or environmental consultant. Thank you for your commitment to the conservation of our natural resources. Thank you also for your patience as we navigate this hybrid meeting. The commission requests that folks wishing to speak approach the podium and speak clearly into the microphone, and remote attendees maintain microphone on mute for privacy. If you would like to speak, use the chat or raise your hand function to alert the chair of your intentions. And call the roll. Commissioner Bro.
Good evening, I'm here.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Christian.
Here.
Commissioner Donnelly.
Here.
Commissioner Helene.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Sarfield in attendance. For the minutes, can we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of the January 12th, 2022?
Motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor? I'm going
Aye.
to call the roll. I'll just call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
I'll abstain since I missed most of the meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield approves? Okay, moving on.
Tracy, I'm here now. I just got put in as a panelist.
Oh, Mary, okay.
Commissioner
Mary.
Helene is in attendance. Commissioner Helene, do you
I've
you have
voted
a
yes to
vote
accept
on the minutes?
as well. Thank you.
Can you hear her?
Yeah, yep.
All right. Are we, do we need to open the Leclerc?
Well, let me see with Dan about sharing my screens. So you guys can see, everybody.
We'll take a pause
Right,
for technical difficulties. I feel like this is in the Olympics, how they have the people telling us what's going on.
Don't flip right there. And so over to here.
got it.
Steam tree. Zoning.
That screen.
And then hit
And shift here.
right. And just make sure your mic is down low enough where you can hear it.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, set now. I have my screen shared. So the first item, sorry, did you start that, Leclerc? Okay.
No, I was just asking, do we need to open it so we can continue it?
I don't think you need to open it unless there's other folks who are here on that.
There are
On
some
that
people
subject.
in the, yeah, so if anyone is here with something new to add, we can listen. But if it's, I mean, we had a continuation, we had a request to continue, so I can,
And this, so folks know, this is the Leclerc at Ashby State Road, 0 Ashby State Road. It's just north of the roundabout. I know I've sent an email to the several folks that I have email addresses for, saying that their engineer had requested a continuance until the March meeting. But I also mentioned that, let me just read from the email. So
do I need to open this to,
I don't think so. There's not new information. This is from Kyle Burchard. We've been wrangling with the long-range view of how to bring this driveway back through the peer reviewer, Tim, on the way to the commission. We will not make this round meeting tonight to get in on for the February 9 commission date. Please let him know that we are seeking to resolve the design in order to give the peer reviewer sufficient time to provide comments. If they are only meeting once a month, then we'd be looking at the March meeting. Kyle Burchard from GPR. But I have mentioned to several folks that I've interacted with that if we don't have something in advance of the March 9th meeting for the commission to review, then maybe they want to withdraw rather than risk a denial. So.
Were you here for this?
No, Mad River.
Okay, so that might be who was on the Zoom, was from Mad River.
Oh, well, if anyone, yeah, there are several folks here for Mad
Okay.
River later on in the meeting.
So
I don't think anyone's here for, well, if anyone is on, just use the raise your hand function and we'll. Okay, but I don't think there's anyone
Okay.
here for the Zero Ashby State Road.
Okay, then, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent, is it Greif? Is that how we're pronouncing it? I'm sorry.
Right, yep.
Greif, Inc., Snowmill Pond Dam Improvements, 100 Newark Way, which is a request to continue. Who do we have speaking to the notice of intent?
A couple of folks from Ty and Bond, Dan, I think Melissa Cody is one, and Steve Sroka. It should have Ty and Bond in the email address. Oh, Melissa has raised her hand.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. For the record, Melissa Cody from Ty and Bond. I understand you met with my colleagues previously. This is a notice of intent for dam repairs, essentially improvements at Snows Mill Pond Dam. The commission opened this hearing on November 10th, 2021, and scheduled and conducted a site visit on November 20th, 2021. That site visit was attended by Steve Sroka, who is the project engineer, and he is unavailable this evening. Since that time, our client expressed a desire to include the removal of 2 metal buildings and to relocate a trailer, both of which are in the buffer zone within the project area, and that is what is presented to the commission in the scope of work addendum that was dated February 1st and provided via email. Additionally, in accordance with a request from the Office of Dam Safety, the footprint of overtopping protection was expanded, and that is also described in this request. All of this work is in the buffer zone, and more specifically, the removal of the 2 metal buildings will actually result in an increase in pervious area and therefore qualifies as an exempt minor activity in buffer zone. Thank you. There are some photos. I see Mike is scrolling. Thank you. So just a couple of representative photos of the buildings to be removed. As you can see, they don't have basements. They're essentially going to be removed, and then the footprints of those buildings will be loamed and seeded to a pervious condition. And there's also a trailer that is not fixed in position, and I apologize, we don't have the best photo of it, adjacent to those buildings that will be relocated elsewhere outside of buffer zone on site. And we did update the drawings, and these additional items of scope are called out. There you go. So you can see these are within buffer zone and riverfront area, but outside, land subject to flooding and bank.
And so this is the after picture, right, proposed?
Yes. So you can see the additional overtopping protection and loam and seed. Thanks. I would open it to the commission if there are any questions regarding the proposed activities at this time.
You see this potential stockpile area in this one, after demo, is there some erosion control barrier around it while the stockpile is there, or is it
This
just...
is lower than the resource area. It's separated by the earth, by the berm and the dike wall.
That shows the profile. Oh,
Yes.
and the rest is just notes and things, right?
The rest of the drawings were not revised. There were no revisions. It was primarily to show to call out the two buildings that were going to be removed and the trailer to be relocated, and then to show the additional loam and seed and overtopping protection areas that were different than what the commission had originally seen.
Did the Office of Dam Safety issue an approval as yet? Or the license, what is it, 253?
That is a good question. Hold on one moment while I...
Tracy, I think Nick is here if he wants to chime.
Would he have gotten notification of that?
Oh, I don't know, but if he's on the call, on the meeting tonight, in the
Okay,
waiting
I'll
room, if
ask
he
him. Yeah,
wants
no,
to
we'll
say
ask
anything.
him. We'll let, is it Cody? Miss Melissa Cody? Oh.
Yes. I am...
Miss Cody,
the
are you looking
application
to
was-
see if you got?
I'm trying to look it up on our server.
Okay.
The application was submitted in October. I am not seeing a copy of a formal permit at this time.
Okay, got it. Attendees. Nick, Erickson, did you have anything? I can, feel free to chime in, because you're green now.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good evening. So I have not seen anything on this project since the previous Conservation Commission submission. So I'm assuming that Office of Dam Safety's reviewed, but nothing's come through DPW or engineering yet.
Thanks, Nick. Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? State your name and address for the record. Mr. Bolek, is there anyone on Zoom, or Mike, can you see who's on Zoom?
Melissa, the raised hand was from before, right?
I'll lower my hand. Thank you.
Okay, got it.
Is there any members of the public who would like to speak? Hearing none from the public, let's turn to our commissioners. Are there any commissioners who would like to ask a question?
What I'd like to do is to apologize for having left the on-site meeting early, 60 days ago or thereabouts. My apologies. At the time, I said that I'd defer to those two commissioners that were on site, Dr. Baker and Dr. Christian, and I'd leave that comment to them tonight. Thank you, and I'm sorry.
I was there. This is Ralph speaking. And I reviewed the documentation, and it all seems fine to me.
Melissa, do you know or have a good estimate when work would start on this? Or does it have to go out to bid still, I assume?
Well, it's a private project, so whether or not they go out to bid is subject to their own discretion. My understanding, we generally try to go out to construction the same year that we get the permits to comply with Office of Safety requirements for timeliness of repairs. So this could be a summer 2022 project.
Okay.
We can certainly provide pre-construction notification to the commission prior to the commencement of work.
Okay. I had a question, Ms. Cody. The
Yes.
stockpile area, will it be loamed and seeded to prevent any erosion?
That's a temporary stockpile during construction, so it will, once the project is complete, the stockpile will be removed and the surface will match pre-existing conditions.
Hearing no more from the public, the chair closes the hearing for notice of intent. Greif Incorporated Snow Mill Pond Dam Improvements, 100 Newark Way. Do we have a motion? Can we have a motion?
Can Mike O'Hara recommend what the motion needs to say?
To issue a notice of conditions with whatever additional conditions beyond the standard boilerplate conditions the commission would like to add.
Okay, I move that we issue an order of conditions. I think a standard order of conditions would suffice probably.
Do we want to have a pre-construction meeting with the agent?
That's one of the standard ones
Okay.
now. Maybe.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Ralph,
Second that.
Okay, Mary
we
seconded.
beat you to it.
Okay, Mary beat you to it. Let's call the roll. Commissioner Bro,
Aye.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Helene,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. So moved. Thank you, Ms. Cody.
We can,
Thank you all for your time. Good evening.
What did she say? I can't hear. It's me, I think. Is it loud enough for like,
it's kind of soft.
okay. Ms. Cody, did you say something?
I think she just dropped off the call, that's all.
What was it?
I didn't quite get that.
I was just telling, I think she just got off the call, that's all.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay, got it.
Thank you. If everyone could speak clearly and loudly for those of us.
Sorry.
Thank
Yeah, she thanked us and then she
Okay, thank you,
left the
Ralph.
call.
Okay. So moving forward, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open a hearing for a request for determination of applicability, Fitchburg Recreation Department trail work at Cogs Hall. Speaking to the request, do we have Nate LaRose?
Nate, I unmuted you, Nate, and bear with me, I'm trying to get back to your application and the plan. No, keep on.
Would it be helpful if I have it up on my screen, if you want to just share my screen?
Oh, I got it now.
All right.
Actually, it might be best just to look at the map first off. How about?
That would be my preference.
Okay, and let's. Sorry, you got to move windows around so you can make it bigger. Okay, come on. There we go. And this was the one.
It's all in the bottom half of the map. Yep.
There we go. All right, the one with the red triangles, right?
Yep. So I've actually not done a presentation for this before, so excuse me if I missed something and you have to have me circle back. Mike's got up our map now, so the DPW has submitted an application for a recreational trails program grant, which they call Mass Trails now through the state. You're all probably fairly familiar with them at this point, since the city's received several over the last years to do trail work at Rollstone Hill and throughout a lot of our parks, and Ralph is currently functioning with one to do kiosk and signage work. This trail was selected from the city's most recent master plan, the master visioning document that was prepared by the Fitchburg Trails Vision Committee. We're hoping to do exactly the maintenance which was called for. We did a site visit with myself, the Commissioner of Public Works, and the city's civil engineer to prepare this documentation. The majority of the work will be taking place outside of the wetland area, but there will be some small wet area bridges installed in the lower section of the map where this brook comes off of Mirror Lake, as well as some switchbacks as the trail turns north again. And some of those, and there should be some brush maintenance and potentially some switchbacks which may come into the area within the wetlands closer to the gazebo up by Whale Rock. I'm not certain exactly what else I'm supposed to speak to since I haven't done this, so any guidance, Tracy, would be helpful.
So Nate, is it this, if you can see my cursor, is it do this entire loop?
Yes, so it's the entire triangle loop, and it does kind of form a really wonky looking figure 8.
Yeah.
But the majority of the work, besides standard trail maintenance, which would just be brush clearing and blazing, is going to take place from the Whale Rock indicator and the parking lot indicator south. It's not going to take place, like I said, besides standard work, it's not going to take place where the Whale Rock Trail connects to the outlook, the lookout loop.
Okay. So not this stretch.
So we'll do trail maintenance in there, but we don't have any plans to do anything more invasive to the trail itself, like the switchbacks and the water bars.
Yeah, if I may be of any help, it is primarily just along the outlet stream from Mirror Lake that our jurisdiction would be involved in what is being proposed. So it's just the southern part.
Correct.
From the Mirror Lake to the Cascades, and then a little bit extending up from the Cascades.
That is correct, yes. So like I said, essentially this area, our goal is to just delineate the trail better and improve the environment for walking, and in some cases add small, wet area, small trail bridges like you would see in the conservation land that is part of the Northern Watershed or in other communities to just assist with walking over wet areas. We're not intending to create any new trail there. The existing trail runs through.
Okay. Do we have anyone here from the public that would like to comment, speak in favor of or against this request, or would like to request more information? Please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone, Mike, who would like to?
I don't see any hands raised.
Hearing none from the public, let's turn to the commission. Are there any commissioners that have any questions or would like more information? Hearing none. Nick Erickson, is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Thanks, Chairwoman Satterfield. I just wanted to add that the proposed bridges that Nate is speaking of, we're intending them to be as minimally invasive as possible, and really installing them only in areas needed to traverse some wet areas. When we did our site visit, there was a little bit of snow on the ground, so it's tough to pinpoint exactly where these bridges would need to be installed. We'll need to wait until the snow melts and things dry up a little bit to figure out exactly where to place those. But we anticipate them being essentially 6x6 lumber cut into several foot long sections as footings, just placed directly on the trail with parallel 2x6 boards spanning the 6x6 footings. So they're minimally invasive. They're nothing that requires excavation or very little excavation. If anything, they just need to be placed on the trail and leveled, and that can be accomplished with on-site materials, rocks as shims to level out those footings. And they'll obviously be easily removable in the event that the trail's discontinued for any reason, or we want to return it to a natural state. And we'll only be installing these in areas where we absolutely need to install them to make sure that people don't have to step through wet and muddy areas.
Thank you.
May I comment? Thank you. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, although trails often don't care about that. That's all well and good. On that trail from the Cascades up to the pond, oftentimes one application of that scenario is with lookouts, where your trail would not abut and go directly along that brook, but rather off the brook, and then create a lookout into the brook where you can get in, peek, and then get back on the trail. To that end, the idea of jumping over wet areas, any consideration with the snow on the ground, or maybe you don't know, but when the snow's gone and it comes time to do it, any consideration giving to going around them, the wet areas, because all of a sudden the straight line isn't significant to this trailhead.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. So in areas where it's possible to maybe reroute the trail around wet areas, we would certainly consider doing that. There's a lot of water that comes off of that hillside there, and there's some natural kind of rills and gullies and natural flow paths for water where I anticipate, not drying up in the summertime, and those would be the areas that we target with these little mini footbridges. But certainly if there's major wet areas alongside the trail and we have the opportunity to reroute to slightly more upland areas around those wet areas instead of building a bridge through it, we definitely consider doing that instead.
Thank you for considering it.
Yeah, to that point, Nick and Mike, it was Dick O'Brien, a member of our Trails Vision Committee, who's also one of the most expert people when it comes to trail design in the area, who laid out this proposed set of trails. And I think he probably gave thought to that, but I certainly wouldn't be averse to rerouting if it's necessary to do so to avoid having to cross wet areas.
Okay, hearing no more from the commission and the public, the chair will close the hearing for a request for determination of applicability. Can we have a motion for a negative determination?
Motion to issue a negative determination of applicability.
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Satterfield approves. Thank you very much. We're going to sign and then move on to other business.
So long, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
stuck in a loop here. There we go.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about 414 Ashburnham Street. Mike?
Yep.
Mr. O'Hara?
Yep. I'm trying to enlarge this so that we can actually see. Okay, folks remember this situation on Ashburnham Street, right? Get it a little bit bigger. Oop, all too far. Okay, so remember this, there was originally a denial by the local commission of an order of conditions, which was appealed to DEP, and there was a superseding order, which I can call up later if you're interested in looking at it. There's also was a local, eventually a local approval under the local wetlands ordinance, and the decision I have in the packet as well. But if you want to look at the plan, I know John is unmuted, John Harrison. So do you have anyone else here, John?
Yeah, Attorney Barrett.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yep, yes we can.
Okay, yeah, John Barrett here on behalf of Mr. Harrison.
Okay, so let's...
I don't know.
So the house has been finished. There's been an application made for a certificate of occupancy for the house. Various departments get to comment on that, including our department. I was hesitant to click on anything about the certificate of occupancy without, the concurrence of the commission because of their approval under the local wetlands bylaw. Now I understand that the superseding order of conditions will require their own issuing of a certificate of compliance, but from what I gathered, both Johns, Central Region and Worcester won't be doing site visits for the time being?
Correct.
Okay. So, but there's still the commission's approval under the local wetlands bylaw, if you remember that, back when we could all meet in person at the airport, if you remember. So let me pull up okay, we have a certification from the engineer on the project, Steve Marsden. Oops, let's scooch down a bit so we can see. No, there we go. Sorry, the several other windows I have kind of obliterates it, but as required in the above ordered conditions, final requests for certificate of compliance must be made at DEP. Due to COVID restrictions, that won't happen until spring. The only item not completed is growing grass. Therefore, I recommend a holdback at $1,000 to cover a respray of hydroseed in the spring. This will cover the only item not completed as of this date, and that's stamped by Steve. And if we go to the conditions of the local approval here,
That's for DEP, not for us. PE signed off on DEP, not on us. He signed off on the DEP order of conditions, not
so Tracy, I don't know if either Attorney Barrett or John has anything to say while you're scrolling through this conditions of the local approval.
We just want to find the easiest path to getting an occupancy permit.
Yeah, if I can add to that, we're just looking for the, I guess, commission's guidance on what you folks want to see done further. As Mr. Marsden suggested, the hold back for the hydro seeding. Mr. Harrison is in the process of selling the property. Of course, not until the certificate of occupancy can issue. But I guess as soon as that can be accomplished, he'd be able to close. He's not opposed to a holdback, certainly for the postponement of the closing, but obviously these people want to get in their home. So I guess we'd like to find out what the commission would like to see done further.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Attorney Barrett. And Mr. Harrison. Let's see.
Currently, do they have any violations outstanding that we're still dealing with or anything like that? Or are we just...
A little louder, Mary, I couldn't quite get that.
Sorry. So do they have any outstanding violations that are in our concern, or have they met all of the, everything that we've asked them to do?
That's a great question, Mary. We're going to have this letter here, as Commissioner Donnelly has brought up, this letter from the engineer is speaking to the DEP's order of conditions. And so, as I understand, what this letter is speaking to the DEP's order. So what we'll do, and what we normally do in these situations, is we go and we have to have an inspection done to see if it's meeting the local ordinance and our local orders of condition that pertain to our bylaws. Commissioner Erickson, is he still there?
Yep, I'm still here. Mike, I don't know if you'd be able to pull up the email from Ryan Killeen earlier today, but he did go out and inspect at least the drop inlet along the edge of the roadway there. I don't believe this drop inlet was rebuilt prior to obtaining the building permits, as outlined in the Concom's order of conditions. But he did go out there today and inspect it, and he provided some feedback. We don't necessarily have city standards that dictate exactly what should be done in every situation for every drop inlet, so obviously it's kind of evaluated on a case-by-case basis. In this case, you have a stream coming down the hillside along the property line and emptying into that drop inlet. And then you have the tie-in from the project proponent's infiltration system that he's piped into the drop inlet. So what Ryan has suggested in his email to Mike essentially is that the pipe coming from the infiltration chambers is kind of at an extreme angle and not directed down into the drop inlet as we would typically see. It's probably not a huge issue, but definitely not something that's good practice. There's really been no other sort of modification to the structure itself to prevent any sort of sedimentation or erosion from the uphill side stream entering into the drop inlet. The drop inlet itself has a concrete slab top. So if that inlet were to become plugged at any point from leaves or debris or anything, it might result in some flooding issues. There's no grate on top that would provide any sort of relief. So his suggestion was to add some sort of a grate on top. But that being said, I don't know if any of this was clearly outlined in the order of conditions. So I don't know that Mr. Harrison knew exactly what to expect and what to do with this drop inlet, just because of the kind of ambiguity of the order of conditions. So I'm not sure exactly what the commission would like to hold him to. Certainly I think the situation could be improved.
but I don't know if that's within our, reasonable expectation of Mr. Harrison. So this is the email that Ryan sent to Mike earlier today after his site visit. Give everyone a second to read through it.
I would say if, the owner of the property is willing to put in that grate and then maybe structure a plan for like an ongoing check annually, maybe we could move forward with this, like to get it off of our plate, but I don't know how the commission is feeling about that, so just a suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner Helene. So we do need to have an inspection to see if this is compliant with our local regulations and the local order of conditions.
Excellent.
It's just our standard operating procedure.
If I may, a good deal of the special conditions were construction activity conditions. And assuming that the construction activity has taken place, perhaps they have all been covered, and an inspection would reveal that. Number 4 required a performance guarantee, and the price was to be determined by the city engineer. Is there a bond or some leverage that we have currently on the site? Is there a dollar amount put aside?
I don't.
Currently?
There is not.
Yeah, I didn't think there was.
No, there wasn't, okay. So you determined no performance guarantee was needed?
I think it was
Well, a city engineer...
I suppose the only way I can answer that is, I just got the order of conditions yesterday, so even though these were a draft order way back, I didn't receive them, and it took me 8 months before I could get a building permit, and by that time, I had started to look at the superseding order of conditions and didn't realize that I needed to do that. Okay. So I have a number amount that I'm proposing. I can explain it to you guys and you can tell me if it makes sense.
All right, so I'd like to get the owner in that house. That would be wonderful for everybody. Two things interfere with my willingness. One is I'm wondering if the bank is without a signing off, is the bank willing to loan, even if there were money in escrow? Is the bank willing to take a loan on a lien? And then secondly, is if the Conservation chooses to sign off, and as much as I'd like to, that would relieve the burden on the owner. It would place the burden on the third party, the owner, and I don't want to do that, and they don't want me to. So, in their interest, we best inspect it. And frankly, at this stage in time, February, performance of water flow and groundwater and et cetera, even snow storage, it's hard to measure, extremely hard to measure. And I want to get him in there, but I don't want the burden to fall on the buyer. That would be unfair as well. So an inspection post haste.
If John is willing to put up, and he can explain further, just what amount.
So I've prepared something.
Well,
after
Mr. Harrison, just a second.
if you don't want, if you guys.
John, hold on.
Mr. Harrison, just a second. If you could put use the raise hand chat or wait to be called on.
We agreed that the city engineer was to determine it in the order of conditions, and there's no reason to change that.
Okay, Michael, go ahead. O'Hara, you were saying?
No, I was just going to see what John had to say, either Attorney Barrett or John, the applicant.
Okay.
So
they're willing to offer.
Mr. Harrison?
I don't know how to raise my hand, I'm sorry. Here we go. Please, yeah.
Mr. Harrison, go ahead.
Okay, so what I've proposed, well, first off, meeting with the engineer this morning, according to the order of conditions, it was to see if any rehabilitation needed to be done to the drop inlet, and from what he said it was working great. It needed some stuff needed to be fixed around it, which I'm willing to put $5,000 down for that. For Mike to come out and inspect and tell us, according to this, or whomever from the board, where the snow removal would need to go, the area for that, the best area, I'm willing to do $2,000. Install no disturbance zone signs on 4 foot. I've already put some in, but no one has them right now. So I've ordered 4 foot with placards to go in. So until that's done, 1,000, and then a 20% miscellaneous of another 1,600, just 20% adding all that up, which brings you to $9,600. And I'm certainly not going to leave that sitting on the table. And I'm pretty sure with the banks that, you know, it's standard practice to have holdbacks like that. But, I mean, maybe I'm not. Maybe a performance guarantee from the city is different than anything I've ever done, so I may be completely wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that, according to speaking to my realtor about this and the buyers, and he's spoken to the buyer's mortgage company, that should suffice.
Okay.
Do we have some documentation of this?
Pardon me?
Do we have some documentation that you could submit pertaining to that?
To the what?
To what you just told us, Mr. Harrison?
For the money part, I have a piece of paper that I drew it all up on that I can send in. As far as, I don't have any documentation from a bank.
Chairman Satterfield, if I might.
Pardon me?
It's John Barrett. Madam Chairman, if I might.
Please.
Yeah, just address that. I think what my client has done is try to come up with a number that would cover as a security for all of these things being completed, which would be held by the city. Certainly it's subject to the city engineer's determination, but I think it's a reasonable proposal by Mr. Harrison to make sure that this work gets done. I guess a separate issue, apart from making sure that this gets done, would be the bank and dealing with the buyer and whether or not they want something else. That would be something separate. But for this security, I'm not sure how the commission has dealt with it before. What Mr. Harrison is saying is he would essentially put up that money. I think one way of doing it would be a deposit of money with the city treasurer, perhaps. I'm not sure how the commission has handled these in the past. But he's willing to do that, and his proposal is $9,600 to ensure that this work gets done. I believe that if that were done, and it depends, if the commission, given the snow conditions and everything that we have now, can get out there and inspect it, he still might have to post the security until this work gets done. But if the commission can inspect it and make a determination, that might help to speed the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, which I'm sure the bank will not allow the closing to happen until that's issued. So I think it's kind of a step-by-step thing. I'm not sure how quickly the commission could get out there, but the other option would be is if it takes some time to get out there to make an assessment, to hold back that money, to approve the certificate of occupancy with the understanding, a temporary certificate of occupancy with the understanding that the security is posted to make sure the revisions of the remaining conditions get satisfied.
Do we still have Nick on the line?
I think so. You still there, Nick Erickson?
Yep, I'm still here.
Thank you.
Just so the commission knows, I mean, that's not out of the ordinary, because that's been done in subdivisions, et cetera, and there are separate accounts that, I can talk to the auditor tomorrow, separate account made up just for, 414 Ashburnham Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the commission votes to reduce or release all of it, then it goes back to Mr. Harrison.
Nick, is the $9,600, is that in line with what would be standard in engineering? A standard?
So just based on the items that Mr. Harrison kind of went over, I think that number is a reasonable number. You know, I guess I wasn't necessarily aware that it was my responsibility to put together a bond estimate for this particular property. I didn't realize that was outlined in the order of conditions, I guess. But as far as the catch basin itself goes, or the drop inlet, 5,000 certainly seems like a reasonable number. Some of those other items, I'd have to do a little bit more research, especially given or referencing the signage and all that. But just off the top of my head, the numbers that Mr. Harrison presented seemed reasonable. So I would say, yes, I would agree that you know, holding a bond in that amount would be a good course of action. And I agree with Mike. It's not uncommon for us to take that approach with developers. You know, we've done that pretty frequently. The most recent example, I think, was Valley Street, where a developer put in a few house lots, and we held a bond until the road work and the utility work and so on and so forth was completed. And we worked very well with the building department to make sure that the certificate of occupancy is used as kind of like a bartering tool. So if we were to issue a temporary CO with the understanding that these items get taken care of, I don't see that being a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. So how quickly can we get an inspection? I guess that would be, because what we have is a sign off on the state's order of conditions. We don't have anything signing off on the local bylaw conditions. So,
as I said, our order of conditions are mostly during construction, so I'm inclined to sign off myself personally on an order of conditions with a dollar amount determined by the city engineer after he's reviewed it. If 9,600 came from the applicant, I'd like the engineer to justify that number, bump it up, whatever. Don't go down. The applicant offered 96, but see to it that our back is covered. And I'm willing to issue the order of conditions, the sign off on them, because most of them are during construction and they're passed. So monitoring something that's already happened is, well, can't do it. All right, so we got to go forward with see to it that the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and with a number to determine by the engineer. But I think I would motion to issue the certificate, provided the engineer formalizes that number 4 prior to the building permit.
To both Johns, I guess, how soon could you produce a check for 96?
Tomorrow, but I also would ask Nick, and just to be sure we get this done, if we can get it done now, is if he feels any bigger amount on any of those things. For example, the snow removal storage area, we've already created one, but I don't want you to feel like, you know what I mean? But I would double that, you know, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. I understand that this stuff should have been done and it wasn't, and that's on me. So if there's a bigger number, I'm gonna come back and fix it if there's anything that needs to get fixed. But even from Nick coming out and looking at that drop inlet, it's not, there was nothing ever wrong with it. I think the only reason we had the drop inlet discussion was because the neighbor had said that it was broken, and it's not. So, but if that, you feel that needs more money, I can app that too. Whatever you guys feel comfortable with.
thank you, Mr.
So
Harrison.
John, sorry, Nick here. John, if you could you scan in the piece of paper that you have all this stuff tabulated on, with all the different costs and whatnot that you're proposing?
and send it over to either myself or Ryan or Seth, someone in engineering, or even Mike O'Hara, and forward it to me.
Yep.
And what we'll do is we'll take that piece of paper, we'll go out there and we'll take a look at the cost that you're proposing and just make sure that everything lines up. And we can turn that around in a day or two, no problem.
I'd appreciate that, and absolutely, yeah.
Mike O'Hara, would that suffice for inspection that pertains to our local bylaw order of condition?
Because it ensures that if things aren't done, once the snow cover is gone, and you can actually see bare ground, if there are things that still need to be addressed, then you have some resources to do that work, so.
Should we schedule a special meeting to vote on this once all that has...
Well, maybe prior to the final CO? I mean, all John is talking about now is a temporary. For the closing to happen and get the new people in there. But before a final CO, what is the usual course of action? The building department will get a hold of us and other different departments to see if everyone is finally satisfied.
Okay, so this is what's been issued as a temporary.
What's being talked about is
okay.
issuing a temporary for the time being to get the family in. So, I mean, you could make the commission could vote tonight to accept, okay, like Michael had said, pending upon receipt of a check and setting up the separate account.
Let's
just this.
let's sign off, hold money back in escrow, and get them in their house, and do our inspections, ongoing inspections, going forward. And we have a security deposit in the form of escrow to tie up any loose ends if the applicant fails to do so. And we've done it multiple times.
Does that sound like a motion?
That's my motion, yeah. Let's get them in the house.
Okay. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that, Tracy.
All right, I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Satterfield, going to abstain from this one. That motion passes, and we can move forward.
Okay. What Nick was saying, John, maybe it's easier to email it to me, and I can forward it to all the guys in engineering.
Just because of my limited ability, when my girl's not in the office, can I just drop it off over there tomorrow morning?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going anyways.
Then I'll scan it and send it to you guys, Nick Erickson. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Can we put this on next month's agenda so we have a review of everything that's happened? Okay.
Unless there's another big snowstorm prior to March 9th, I suppose.
Okay.
Could I make a suggestion on that? I don't know if it's too late for me to, but give me a little longer than 1 month, because we've got a ton of water on site and stuff, and not that it's being handled well, but we could run into a bunch of weather, and it will just, if you gave me 2 months, it'll definitely be done. Because I'll be in into some good weather, and we can, but there isn't very much left to be done, but you will be able to inspect it. And
yep. Well, we can put it on for March.
April?
If it's still dry enough, you just bump it from month to month.
So we'll put it on March. If we need to, we can move it to April.
Madam Chairman, Madam Satterfield, Madam Chairman, I would suggest if you could do it in March. The only, I don't want to be the fly in the ointment here, John, but the only thing is you still have to deal with the bank and the buyers whether or not a temporary occupancy permit will be sufficient. It's, I think normally someone that's, an owner would be sufficient, but we still have one more, hoop to jump through on that. So I think the sooner, and if it's not ready, I think the commission would be willing to put it over until it can be completed.
Okay, fair enough. Ian, one question. So when I get it done, I call Mike and he comes out, or is there a full site walk scheduled? Because I have everything showing the underground stuff to include pictures. The building inspector has seen all the work under there and everything. So, but I know we have to figure out that snow stuff, and then we got to make sure everything's cleaned up around the outlet and get those 4x4s in. So once I get all that done, I just come and speak to you and you come and look at it, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, I'll grab one of the guys from engineering or Mr. Commissioner and come out.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I think that's a good, you're right. I'm wrong. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Move along, please.
Okay, moving forward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman,
Thank you.
and thank you, Commissioners and Mr. O'Hara.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Harris.
You're welcome.
Moving forward with Mad River Solar, forest cutting, Ashburnham Street. Do you have an update?
Well, let me just read, it's on the screen now, but we got an email last week from a PE from ERM, the environmental consulting firm that the Deneuville's have hired to come up with a restoration plan. As requested by Concom on January 12th, Environmental Resources Management, on behalf of Mad River Solar Holdings, has contacted the Commission's consultant, Tim Smith, and outlined the proposed restoration measures were provided to Mr. Smith for review and comment on January 27th. Mr. Smith spoke with ERM on Friday the 28th and approved of the proposed measures. Mr. Smith will be provided a copy of the draft restoration plan for review and comment prior to filing the final version at the end of February. At that time, we respectfully request the Commission vote to incorporate it as an amendment to the order of conditions on March 2022. Further updates will be provided as they become available, etc. If we do have that restoration plan, well, there's a couple of neighbors here in person, and Joyce, I can easily email it out to you and Mrs. Capone and others in the area. And if we get it with enough time in order to advertise an amended order of conditions prior to June 9th, and I guess we probably should discuss you sticking with March 9th, or a different meeting date like the chair and I had talked, but let's keep March 9th. I want to skip ahead to summer.
Yeah, that would be nice.
March 9th. But the point being, we need enough time in order to get notice of a new hearing, because we really need a new hearing and notice to neighbors, in fairness.
I think it sounded from when I spoke to Tim about this, it sounded like they might need more time, because the person he was speaking with was from the DC area and wasn't even aware that there were local bylaws that they needed to be considering. They didn't even know they existed. So we'll see how it goes.
Right.
Because, yes.
I might be able to address some of that if I could.
Is that we're okay? I mean, she's allowed to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Joyce Jacobs, 778 Ashburnham Street. We were kind of hoping tonight that we would see the restoration plan, because they had said that would be enough time from the last meeting to have that ready, but it's not. My couple of points that I'd like to add tonight would be, I understand that there's a new player that's going to participate as a principal in this project, which is Duke Energy. Now, whether or not that's the person from Washington or wherever that is getting involved, but the person that I spoke to from Duke Energy said he was going to be the new project manager. So the question becomes, who is now going to be responsible for this project? Will it be Mad River Solar, or Duke Energy. Now, Mike and I talked about it yesterday, and I understand that there are times when other, like energy companies, get involved with these kind of projects in helping in some way develop this, but I didn't, want to make sure that you're aware that this is happening, and how do we
There was somebody
proceed
with the
that?
email address at Duke Energy at one of the previous meetings. I don't think the person spoke, but you saw, because I can see the email addresses.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. Because the gentleman that I spoke to said he was going to be the project manager from Duke Energy, not from Mad River Solar.
Well, Joyce, as you and I discussed, like you said, it's
And
not
that-
unusual for
right,
a project to be
for other-
transferred, whether it's solar or otherwise, to be transferred to another entity. You just
Yeah.
want to make sure that entity B is aware of and is willing to abide by everything that the original applicant.
Right, rather than the same process that we just had with entities A and B, not knowing what the buffer is on the cutting, and, now we get somebody else involved, and so we just want to make sure that everybody, and determine ahead of time who is going to be the major part of this plan that will be working with the city and the neighbors. We're hoping that we do have time, that the neighbors and all the abutters will be able to look at this restoration plan and possibly have an open meeting so that we can have input. And I'm hoping that as part of this restoration plan, that somebody at some point is going to have to get up there, because there are just ribbons everywhere. There is no telling what's going on right now. There's ribbons from the original plan. There's ribbons from when we agreed to the extension to the 125-foot buffer. There's ribbons that the forester put out. So right now, it's all just kind of crazy. So, Mike, as you're talking to them, how are they going to delineate what is actually going to take place and where? So that's just my input for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So when I talked to Tim, he never mentioned Duke Energy. The person that he had been communicating with was from ERM. It was a woman from ERM who was based out of DC, or in the DC area. So this is the first I've heard about Duke Energy.
Right, there were 4 people that came, excuse me, one was from Kentucky, one was from Connecticut. Do you remember where the other 2 plates were from? One was from Tennessee, and I don't remember the other one, if that might have been Virginia or something that would have been in the DC area that had been up already, and they were all associated with Duke Energy.
Tracy, Attorney Barrett has his hand raised, and I think obviously he's associated with this project. So-
Attorney Barrett, go ahead. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'm here on behalf of Mad River tonight. Basically, just to report what I think you already know, but maybe give a little further detail. I believe that ERM does have a draft plan, and they will hopefully be able to have it ready to give to the commission and for dissemination. I think Mr. O'Hara suggested if we could get it to you by the 23rd or 24th of February, it could be available at the time of publication for the hearing on the 9th.
And send notice by mail to the abutters too as well, John.
Okay, notice with a copy of the plan, you mean, Mike?
No, we'll take care of that. We take care of the notice. I mean, I think we have enough email addresses from folks in the area. They can disseminate it that way just by a PDF of the plan.
Okay. And I did have an email out to, I'm sorry, I don't have my email presently handy, but it's I think it's Alexia at ERM. And I emailed them this afternoon about would they be able to get the plan in by the 23rd or 24th. I don't believe I got a response, but I'm hopeful that since they have a draft, I think it's only subject to further comment from Mr. Smith before they can finalize it. So I can't imagine they wouldn't be able to get it ready by the 24th at least. And then hopefully we'll have the hearing on the 9th and address the board and the neighbors' concerns.
Okay.
Mr. Barrett, do you have anything to tell us about the involvement of Duke Energy?
You know, I'm not certain. I think there is some connection there, but honestly, Madam Chairman, I'm not sure exactly what if they're ultimately taking it over or if they're financing some of it or what. I don't really know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. Thank you, Attorney Barrett.
Yep, well, thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. And I don't know if there's anything else, but I was just standing in, pinch hitting, if you will, for the, because we weren't certain. At the time, actually last month, I don't think we really thought we would be able to get it ready by this time. And that's why this was more of a status meeting, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, I have the name and number and an email for this gentleman that is supposed to be a project manager for Duke Energy.
Yeah, sure, shoot it to me tomorrow.
Okay, I'll send you an email tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
So moving forward, do we have Mr. Piermarini from the Leominster DPW?
I did correspond with Mark about this. I asked if he had any like after pictures, but he did say he had pictures immediately after the construction of the water main break, the repair of the water main break, but taking pictures now would just have 12 inches of snow on the ground. But he's glad to do a site walk when the weather allows for that. Nick, if you're on the line, one thing that Mark Piermarini had mentioned where the commission would want a lock on, well, there needs to be a lock on the gate that provides access to that point, whether it's the commission's lock or what. I suggested it should be Leominster Water Department's lock, but make sure that GW has a key, so and you guys have a key, so you can get to that spot if need be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would agree. It probably should be their lock and then just give us a key in case we need emergency access down there, whether it's us or emergency vehicles.
So I can ask Mark Piermarini just to give an update at a future meeting.
Okay, excellent. Moving forward, there was a letter of support. The DPW requested a letter of support for the McTaggart's Pond Dam Removal Grant that I wrote, and when I sent it to the Commissioner Erickson, I copied the members of the commission to that.
And
pretty sure I did. That was a long
Happy to
time.
see my name on that letter of support. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, you did send it.
Thank you, Ralph. It's been a long week for me, and for everybody. So I've been.
It's only Wednesday. Oh, wait, share screen, where you guys can see it. Sorry.
Have we had any feedback from the abutters on that note? On that letter of support from the CONSCOM, just out of curiosity?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard from anyone.
Well, that's good. That's very good.
I haven't heard of any feedback from the abutters on that particular note. I will say that I believe it's Mr. Kevin Reardon who owns the property adjacent to the dam if you're facing downstream on the left, kind of on the Ashburnham Street side of the dam. He is definitely not in favor of dam removal and hasn't been for quite some time, since the beginning of talks of removing the dam. So unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to earn his support. And a lot of the residents that own property adjacent to McTaggart's Pond, I'm sure, wouldn't support removal of the dam. However, it is something that provides an ecological benefit to the environment out there, and then it also saves the city from future operations and maintenance costs of the dam, and the liability of having a dam in poor condition between the children in the neighborhood that play on the dam and all that stuff, everything that surrounds having a dam in that location that we don't have money to maintain or upkeep. So this grant application is kind of the
the second phase in our efforts to design and permit removal of this dam. We received a grant through the EOEEA's Dam and Seawall Repair Removal Program to begin the design and permitting of the dam removal. So using that funding, we conducted an alternatives analysis to determine whether removal of the dam or repair of the dam was the best path forward, and kind of assign some cost to that. We determined that removal of the dam was in the city's best interest, and we started forward down that path. We got a consultant on board. The engineering firm that we selected for this work was Fuss & O'Neill, who's one of our on-call engineering consultants. So they began the design and permitting for the dam removal. I'm sure at some point this will come before the commission. So during their initial design, they kind of put current day costs to what we're looking at for completing the design and permitting work, and they figured that we were probably about $50,000 to $60,000 short. They anticipate some additional sediment sampling that will be required. A few other final design elements that need additional funding beyond their original scope. And then I also discussed with the Historical Commission about putting some sort of signs or placards or something at the site to kind of give a nod to the history of McTaggart's Pond and the dam and its former industrial use. So the grant application includes funding for all of those items. So we submitted that to the EEA's Dam and Seawall Repair Removal Program once again. And it'll probably be a little while before we hear back on the results of that, but we submitted the grant application last Thursday. And we're hoping that it'll be successful. I think we're in a good position because of our previous investment in the dam, the fact that a grant was administered previously for the beginning of this work. So we'll see what feedback we get from them, but we certainly appreciate a letter of support from the Conservation Commission. I think that letter of support is going to go a long way in making the grant application successful.
Nick, if I may add something, you may recall, since you believe escorted us, the National River Watershed Association's committee regarding dams came and visited the site a few years ago. And one of our members suggested that when this goes forward, the dam removal that is, that it would be desirable to consider some landscaping, you might say, to some reforming of the topography back upstream of the dam where the pond currently, or where the pond used to be, McTaggart's Pond used to be, to add a little bit of topography to the channel through which the stream now flows. And I wonder if you've given any consideration to that sort of thing.
So the consultant that's working on the initial design is kind of just nearing their 25% drawings, if you will. And what they're proposing at this point is taking the sediments that have accumulated at the spillway for the dam and kind of moving those to fill in some of the depressions along the area that used to be considered the beach, where people used to recreate on that opposite bank there, to kind of give some better topography down that slope that comes down where the beach was to the shoreline, and then kind of not necessarily flatten that out, but continue that grade all the way down to the existing channel that's a little bit closer to the residences on the opposite bank from that. So I think that's consistent with what the DER and we had discussed on site. But certainly once we have the actual conceptual design drawings and we've kind of reviewed that with DER, DEP, and so on and so forth, I'm happy to come back to the commission, give a brief update and solicit some feedback, and then pass that feedback on to the design team for consideration in moving forward with the final designs.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Nick, is it unfair? I mean, this is only for the final design and specs. Do you have any idea what the increased cost of the actual dam removal would be at this stage?
At this point, I don't know. I mean, we did the alternatives analysis back in, I think it was 2018 that we finalized that. So given the extra time that it's going to take to finalize the design and then bid the project out, we could be looking at significantly increased construction costs in another year or two when this is ready to actually go out to construction. Especially given the fact that there's an influx of capital due to the American Rescue Plan Act and the upcoming infrastructure bill. So I'm anticipating contractor prices are going to continue to go up along with inflation and all that. So I don't have an accurate number for you at this time, Mike. It's all going to depend on how things shake out over the next year or so. I think right now, if we were to go out to bid with something like this, it would be very similar in cost to what was anticipated a year or two ago, give or take, maybe 10%.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
On a separate note, my daughter's on the Fitchburg High School Envirothon team, and they have they've started to incorporate nature-based solutions into the work that they're doing, which I thought was exciting for paying it forward to the younger generation. Yeah, absolutely. So,
that's great to hear.
Yeah, it was.
Congratulations, Mom.
It is good to hear, Tracy.
Yeah, they had to Google it. I told them to Google it. They wanted me to tell them what it was, and I said they were smart enough to Google it and find out. But no, this is exciting. This is exciting stuff. So thank you, Nick. I think we have next was the solicitation of new members. And Mike O'Hara had shown me an infographic that the Leominster Conservation Commission
did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, as a guide. So I created an infographic that we could use because I have access to Canva at work. And do you have it?
I'm trying to get to it.
See if you can get to it. And I think I would like to change it so that we can have the city's logo on it. But I tried to make it lighthearted. And if anybody has any comments on it, please, or you'd like something that's to be changed. I don't recall if I sent that out to everybody.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I'll send it out to everybody, or Mike can send it out. And I did make sure to put it in Spanish as well, so that everybody would be included. Yeah. So that was what that was on the other business.
And where, sorry, I was fiddling with this, but where, to distribute it to, how to distribute it?
Yeah, I don't know, how do you guys do that stuff in community development? How do you distribute things?
Well, you put something on the city's main website,
Yeah. I think that it's important to note we do want to look for folks that have some background. Personally, I want to see folks that have some background in stormwater management and nature-based solutions, geology, land policy.
On the way over, I look at the stormwater management, I see Snowflake there. On the way over, I was thinking of background in engineering, environmental studies or science or management, and have development or attempted development. Do you own your own home? Have you ever attempted to develop, or are you thinking of developing? That's what we're dealing with, is people that want to develop their property. So if they have a background in trying to develop and they run the hurdles, they can educate the Conservation Commission of the hurdles that they face that are either warranted or unwarranted. But that right there is like that's 22nd century, and we're dealing with today. I don't know. That's just a little bit. That's a little bit neat, and I don't fit any of those things. I
What
gotta
are you
head home.
talking about?
I gotta go.
I would suggest that we put our heads together, maybe write back with some suggested language and then, see what we come up with.
That's fantastic.
Natural resource management. Yeah, I agree. It needs a little tweaking in the verbiage there.
I welcome all of that. I did this just quickly so we would have something to look at. Yes, Michael?
No, I was just going to say, speaking of heads, is that a way out of proportion?
I know, that was just what was on Canva. It was just a template that, yeah, it is weird, okay?
Yeah, we don't want pinheads on this commission.
Looks dehydrated.
I can make changes to it. There are changes that can be made. It was just something that I did quickly.
Tracy, we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for putting it out there and
Thank you. You're very welcome. I can try to come up with some other options. Canva is free and very user-friendly. It's canva.com, and it provides you with all these templates, and anybody's welcome to take advantage of free stuff on the internet. What I used was from the Mount Wachusett Community College account, and so that's where I got it. But
well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Representative here. This quickly though, because it's getting late.
Yes.
Got a notice from the Lunenburg Conservation Commission for a property that is being applied for in Lunenburg, owned by the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority. And let me get to the plan that they were kind enough to send me. Actually, we got it from Hannigan Engineering. Oh, damn it. Nope, back one. I don't want that, I want the plan. You know where
Mike, I read it, but I couldn't understand what the heck it was trying to say.
This notice?
Yeah, it's totally unclear.
It's, trust me, that's the boilerplate notice that is in the DEP regs or the DEP form that everybody uses, which, you're right, does not give you much information at all. But the idea of it, if you, why does it, damn it. Oh, you know what I did? Oh, son of a gun.
You put the same notice in both places.
I know, I realize that now because of both. But if you guys know where the airport pit is, and a few years ago, well, Mike's gone now, but he would remember, there was a filing at like 134 Crawford Street. It's before you get to the entrance to the dump. On the left-hand side, as you're heading toward Leominster, there's Greco Construction. There's a car repo place on the right-hand side and a construction company on the opposite side. I can distribute the plan once I'm at a computer where I can actually work. But there have been encroachments into the wetlands and into the buffer zone on the line between Leominster and Lunenburg for years, and you can track it if you go on MassGIS and check the aerial photos back over time. It is Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority property. I know Megan has been working with the owner there, Greco, and Hannigan Engineering's plan, which you will eventually see when I forward it to you, does some wetlands restoration and riverbank, our riverfront area restoration in that stretch just upstream of 134 Crawford Street. Removal of invasive species, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the deal, I think, that Megan has worked out with Greco Alonso Construction in exchange for conveyance of a piece of property there. So the construction company was encroaching onto the FRA's land, which happens to be located on the Lunenburg side of the town line.
Where is this? I'm sorry.
I'll try to
Upstream of Crawford Street? Is that down by the airport?
It is, yeah.
Oh, Greco, is that familiar? That is familiar to us because...
Greco Alonso.
Yeah.
Is Tango. They're related parties on either side of the street.
Right. Now, he's
the one with the
There was one on the right-hand
Oh,
side.
yeah.
Yeah.
On the right-hand
We
side.
ever wrap that up? Did he ever, maybe we should,
Well, there's no, I mean, that probably has expired now. Remember, he was going to have a building there? That was a Hannigan plan.
well, he
too.
was also supposed to do some landscaping, remember? Like,
That's, yes, I do. Sorry, I don't think at this point, since I'm not at the,
Okay.
I just brought the laptop with me, but I'll send that out to you guys. But I'm not sure when Lunenburg Concom will be having their public hearing for this, but I can find out from Matt Morrow. He's still the agent there for the next couple of months. And I'll send to the commission members a copy of the plan.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Mike.
I mean, something good that's happening, restoration of the riverfront in that area. And quickly, as Dan from FATV had mentioned earlier when it was just Tracy and I here, okay, meeting schedules. We both the Concom and the Planning Board changed their meeting dates. The meeting date that, anyway, to cut to the chase, Finance Committee is willing to consider to change their meeting date to the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month in order to not conflict with several other board meetings that meet on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays is still a popular night. The staff to the Finance Committee meeting, Calvin Brooks, the auditor, had asked me if I would convey to the commission whether the commission be willing to switch from the second Wednesday to the first Wednesday. That would open up this meeting space here for the Finance Committee. It could be that the Water and Wastewater Commission would also be moving to the first Wednesday, but I know when we were talking about meeting dates earlier, months ago, some folks had conflicts, and Ralph, I could not remember which date that, or day of the week that you had an RWA meeting.
Yeah, the first Wednesday, I think, is not going to be a problem for me.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, this is Nick. Just wanted to weigh in. At the Water Wastewater Commission meeting earlier today, we discussed moving our meetings to either the first or the third Wednesday, but it seems like most commission members wanted to stick to the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
So that would actually work out better, particularly for me, because I have to go to Water Wastewater Commission and then Concom. But just to clarify.
And I agree, it kind of has worked out, frankly, for the folks who are hosting us here. Dan, the man in the back room, because he doesn't have to come out. I mean, it minimizes the nights when they're out. So if you can piggyback meetings, I think that'd be a good idea. Well, what about the third Wednesday then?
how does the third Wednesday work? For everybody on the commission? Commissioner Bro? You can let us know, or you can tell us you need more time.
No, I guess I'm okay. I'm okay with either. I've kind of settled into, our most recent adjustment here. But, if it's best fitting for others across multiple boards and commissions in the city, as well as our conservation commissioners, I'd be okay with moving.
Yeah, for me, the third Thursday would be much worse.
Third Wednesday?
I'm sorry, the third Wednesday would be much worse than the first Wednesday.
Is there any availability on like a Tuesday night at all? And I don't mean to like throw a monkey wrench into anything. Wednesdays are one of the worst days for me, but I will make it work. You know what I mean? It's once a month, I can do it. But since it's up for debate, I figure I might as well ask.
Well, that raises the question, because if Finance Committee vacates the Tuesday evening that they have been, that opens up, and you could have something here. I would just suggest not the fourth Tuesday,
Could we possibly switch with them and do like a Tuesday night instead of a Wednesday if it works with everybody? And again, no pressure.
Well, then you try calling Marcus and getting them, they already agreed to change it once, so.
Oh, I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. I thought you said
No.
that they want Wednesday.
Yeah, well, they agreed to switch to Wednesday. Now, that's what I understood from Calvin
So then we
earlier
could
today.
do Tuesday, right?
I think the issue with Tuesday is city council meeting and
Oh, forget that.
That's
meeting.
true.
Yeah, never mind.
Yep.
Maybe not every week. I know city council tends to be like the second or first and third or something like that. And
That's
then
right.
ZBA, I'm not sure, but I think ZBA is on a Tuesday night, and that was one of the reasons for finance committee needing to move or something like that.
Okay, it sounds like Tuesday's kind of packed.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, if the
Figured I'd
first,
float it out there while we're talking about it. No big deal.
Thanks, Mary.
doesn't need to be a decision, but I mean, if,
Yeah, maybe we can move this to email exchange. We're allowed to discuss our schedule over email without being in violation of the open meeting laws. I think schedule discussions are allowed. It's my understanding, scheduled discussions are allowed.
so for next month, let's stick with what we already have on the calendar with the second Wednesday, March 9th.
Yes, and then we can have.
Discuss internally.
Yeah, we'll have an internal discussion. And on that note, I would like to, before we close, I want to once again thank everybody that's involved for their dedication to public service and their commitment to the conservation of the natural resources of Fitchburg. And your service, while we know it's voluntary, is very important and much appreciated.
And yours.
Thank you. And on that note, can we have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting of the February 9th, 2022 Fitchburg Conservation
I
Commission?
move we adjourn.
And a second?
I second Dr. Baker's.
Thank you. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly? He's left the building. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarahfield, aye. Thank you all for your, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And we'll.
Hi, folks. Talk soon.
Have a nice
Okay,
evening.
good night.
Before we leave, Mark, how are you doing from a couple of days ago?